One of my favorites also is Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is a town of 500,000 people. You know, historic town. For one day, it was the capital of the U.S. Back in the 1770s, and but they put their baseball stadium downtown. They're becoming the arts mecca for the Northeast. It's the Santa Fe of the Northeast. And speaking of that, I don't have an image of it, but Charleston is another great example. You know, 20 years ago, Charleston was a pretty dodgy place, and today they have condominiums selling for $500, $600, $700 per square foot, and 100 art galleries downtown. They're the Santa Fe of the Southeast. And then of all places, downtown Roanoke, which has no water to speak of. It's basically a railhead. It's where major railroads come together. And they have created a fabulously vibrant downtown. The image in the upper right-hand corner is their brand new art museum, which went right downtown, naturally, where all art museums need to go because they perform better. And it's been described as the Flying Nun crashed in downtown. The thing about making downtowns great is that it's all about placemaking. And what Elizabeth and her team are doing downtown is all about placemaking, because it takes the public sector doing their job, it takes the private sector taking the risks, but it takes that place manager, because place management is key to making these places work. And one of the things I'm going to suggest to you is that you think about the fact that much of what you're doing now could be described in business terms as providing cost center kind of services, clean and safe, and basically you're paid to do a service and the property owners have hired you to do it. It's a cost center. You're beginning to move into the profit center mode, where you're generating revenues, hopefully your costs are less than your revenues, and you're making a profit to plow back into downtown. And this is where you begin to run festivals and events and have sponsorships, and you really aggressively market the retail like you're now doing, and that you might get into the management of some of the assets downtown. And that then gets you into the investment center business, where you are raising tens of millions of dollars to invest in capital improvements that will generate a revenue stream to pay off the bonds and hopefully make a profit, where you can maybe manage the parking decks, manage the parks, redevelop the parks, get into rail transit. This is the future of place management. And the best example in the country is Bryant Park, and I know it's from New York City, so it's you know, New York is a one-of-a-kind place, but it's such a great example. Bryant Park was known as Needle Park 20 years ago. Panic at a Needle Park, this was the park. And it was 5 acres. The city ran it for $250,000 per year through their parks department. And for that, they got the best drug dealing center in Midtown Manhattan. And all the buildings around it turned their backs to it. It was not anything to really embrace. Well, the private sector came in, told the city to keep your stinking $250,000. They raised the money privately to rebuild the park completely from the ground up. They now have an $8 million per year budget. 85% of it is funded from activities in the park, restaurants, small little kiosks, sponsorships, festivals that they raise from the park. So it's gone from a public nuisance to who couldn't make a lot of money with 5 acres at 42nd and Broadway. It just takes a mental shift, and that's what we in the place-making business need to do. So let me end by giving you a to-do list. Since I'm a professor, I am an official professor, I can give you a to-do list. And one is what I've just mentioned, is to continue to expand the business improvement district from a cost center to a profit center and eventually to an investment center. And you that are on the board, you that are financing the business improvement district, you have to step up to help make this happen, but it's going to be well worth it financially. Number 2 is that perhaps the management should consider, your board should consider expanding the management services to the downtown adjacent places. You've got a great structure in place. If you If you expand it to a downtown adjacent place, you don't need a new executive director. You've got the overhead in place. And places like Dallas are doing it. Downtown Dallas, Inc. is now the manager of the 5 downtown adjacent places around Dallas. Take a visit. Go up and see Chattanooga. Go to Charleston and talk to Joe Riley and talk to other folks who have made that a remarkable turnaround. And of course, Lancaster and Rick Gray, the mayor up in Lancaster. The other key thing is get the overlay zoning, the form-based code done now. You gotta make the right thing easy. I've developed 12 real estate projects in my career. Every single one of them has been illegal. And it gets old proposing illegal things to do. And it's very expensive to get the changes necessary in the zoning code, and it takes a lot of time. But also think big. We in this country have to get back to thinking big again. Think no small plans. And it could be that you should be introducing, just off the top of my head, it's pretty obvious that you should be thinking about a new streetcar line. Streetcars, the modern streetcar in this country has proven itself to be a real economic generator. They're not that expensive to build, and they yield phenomenal results. Portland put up a $55 million first phase streetcar. Within 7 years, the private sector had invested $3.5 billion in a former industrial district. You've got to gain access to your river. And you're beginning that, but you need more access. But you've got a uniqueness here that I don't think anybody else will have. That most ports have been moved out of the downtown. Worldwide, they've all been moved out of the downtown to bigger containerized facilities. And so they've left the downtown and a lot of land that can get redeveloped, and it's been redeveloped all over the place. The thing is that you've got a working port downtown. Almost every one of you in this room spend probably half your day looking at a computer screen. We're not doing things that are real. We're doing virtual things. Well, your port is as real as it gets, and people want to look at it, and there's view premiums, and you're going to have one of the most unique downtowns that you can actually see this heavy industrial work taking place. I just peeked outside just before lunch, and the ship is coming out of dry dock. It may be already in the water. That is well worth watching. And you may want to consider revitalizing and privatizing the arena. That arena should be a tremendous asset, but it should be busy 150, 180, 200 nights per year. Right now it's 40 nights per year. Only the private sector can make that happen. And finally, the business improvement district or some other developer should become involved as a catalytic developer to begin to assemble the land to then joint venture with your vertical developers to make these projects easier to make happen. So if you will develop a walkable urban future, economic growth will follow. Thank you very much.
Chris, thank you so much for coming to Mobile. And in way of a final remark, I would like us all to reflect on the question Ricky asked us, and that's to figure out what our contribution individually can do to continue the growth and progress of our area and this entire region. And now in closing, I'd like to ask our City of Mobile Chief of Staff to come and ask our final blessing. Al Stokes.
On behalf of the city, we thank you for this opportunity. Let's bow our heads. This is a day that the Lord has made, and we should rejoice and be glad. As we leave this place, it is our prayer that we will have absorbed all of the things that will have been said in such a way that we can now go forward and share these blessings, share these visions with our community. These are other blessings we ask. Amen.
We are adjourned. Thank you for coming. See you next year.